Now we're ready for chapter 12, the second lesson. And these are going to be some more properties of exponents. We've done multiplication and division of terms with like bases with exponents. Next, we're going to look at the power rule. And that means if you have a term that has an exponent and you take that term to another power, it looks like we're just going to be multiplying the bases. So if we had b to the fourth power, that means that, and we're squaring it. In other words, we're taking it to a second power, so we're going to use this twice. And now we have 8 factors. So we've multiplied 4 times 2 to get 8. So the power rule, this is when you have an exponent of an exponential term. To raise an exponential expression to a power, keep the base, it have to be the same base, and multiply the exponent. So this is very simple. You just have to remember the rule. So this is something that you might practice on a regular basis. So by the time we take our exam over Unit 4, you will remember how to do this. It's simple, but you need to remember that that's what you're going to do. So we have x to the fourth power squared. So we're going to multiply the exponents. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we have 3 to the third power taken to the fourth power. So we're going to multiply 3 times 4 and get 12. Now we have x squared, x to the fifth, and we're taking that to the third. So what we're going to do first is what's in parentheses. We know that. We know PEMDAS, right? So we're going to do what's in parentheses first. This is multiplication. So we'll add the exponents. 2 and 5 would be 7. And now we're going to take that to the third power. We did this first, and now we're going to do the exponents. So to take x to the seventh to the third power, we multiply the exponents. And if we have a product like a times b and take that to a power, that means that we're going to take each of these factors to that power. So this is our little general rule stated with letters. The power of a product rule, remember product means that there's multiplication within some parentheses. We're going to raise each factor to that power. So we're really raising x to the fifth power and y to the fifth power. Pretty easy. We have s times t to the fourth power. We'll take s to the fourth power, and then we'll take t to the fourth power. Here we have 2a taken to the third power, so we'll take 2 to the third power and a to the third power. And often, this is the part that students miss. They do the variable, but they fail to do the other factor. Okay, we have negative 5x squared y cubed z squared. So we know if it's negative and we have two of those, then the signs are like, so it's going to be positive. Now we'll take 5 to the second power. We'll take x squared to the second power, so 2 times 2 would be 4. Now, what about y? we've got y to the third power squared, so 3 times 2 would be 6. Z is to the first power, even though it's not written there, we know it's the first power. So 1 times 2 is 2. So here's our answer. Now we're taking this to the fifth power, which means we're going to have an odd number of negatives. So we know that that means it's negative. And now we're going to take x to the first power to the fifth power. So that's going to be x to the fifth, 1 times 5. Now y cubed to the fifth power would be 3 times 5 would be 15. So there's our answer. So we have the power of a product, and that's when we're in multiplication. And now we're going to take the power of a quotient, which is when we're in